Welcome to another episode of Wits and Weights. On today's episode, I am joined by Yosh, whom I've known for many years because we have an association with Romeo Athletics. Him as a coach and trainer, and myself as a longtime member. And I'm really excited that we made this happen because we can sit down and talk about coaching, the fitness industry, optimizing your health, training, wherever the conversation takes us. Yosh is a certified sports performance coach and personal trainer at Romeo Athletics, which is in Connecticut. And through his professional career as a behavioral counselor and group fitness coach, Yosh learned about the importance of mental health and wellness, and now serves as a guide and mentor to others on their own fitness journey. Yosh, man, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Philip, what's good, man? Yeah, I'm happy. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I've known you for years. We've chatted a lot, but we haven't really gotten into your background and your story and kind of who you are as a coach. So I think we're going to explore that today, and people are going to learn a lot and maybe some strategies along the way. So let's just start with your background and expertise, where they intersect, right? Which, from my perspective, looks like fitness, coaching, and mental health, which is I think is an interesting angle that we can explore. So, what's your story? What inspired you to guide and mentor others in the way that you do?
So before I moved to Enfield to Romeo Athletics, I had lived in Boston for over a decade, and my career really started there as a behavioral counselor at an organization called Baycove Academy. And I got a recommendation from a previous company I worked for in Berkshire County called Hillcrest Educational Centers. So like that was sort of the breadth of my I joke because I feel like if fitness and that weren't a thing, I'd be unemployable. Like those are really the only two things I've dabbled in. So I started at Baycove Academy, and then somewhere down within I would say my first year there, having known Rome and what he does with his gym at the time, I had reached out to him and said like, hey man, I'd like to follow your programming. If you could coach me up, that'd be great. I didn't go into detail about why, but really because the job itself as a counselor is pretty heavy. We treated some pretty hard youth from the greater Boston area with very severe learning and behavioral difficulties. So, I mean, we'd be treating kids anywhere from 12 years old to 20 years old, because after that they would age out of the program. The state couldn't provide resources or funding for any child over the age of 20. So did that for, again, probably the same amount of time that I was training and coaching in the Boston area. So once I got in with Rome, started working out, I said, oh, you know what? It'd probably be better. Not that things weren't well, the program wasn't well on that side, but as I continued to do the behavioral counseling and that work, he had suggested that I go to CrossFit Fenway, which was maybe a mile and a half down from where I worked. So I joined that as my first affiliate and kind of did the training, coaching, and the therapeutic stuff, like pretty much like right in line with each other.
All right, cool. And so for those listening, when you say Rome, you're talking about Andrew Romeo. He's the CEO and head coach of. No, just for people, because I have an international following here, millions of people all over the world and maybe beyond listening. But for anybody in the Northeast or in Connecticut, it's Romeo Athletics, Andrew Romeo. It's named after him. So Yosh is there in the Enfield facility, and they have another facility opening up. By the time this goes out, it might be open already in Avon. So anyway, that sounds pretty cool how your background led you to another area that you're also passionate about, and then you got this opportunity from Rome. And then you moved out here when and started coaching here?
I moved out here in June of 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave my it was funny because I had one of the great things about my previous employer, they would have weekly supervisions and kind of like feedback loops, right? So her name was Carol. She walked in and I said, "Hey, I have something to tell you." And she goes, "Oh no, you're leaving." I was like, "Yep, we're gonna
She knew it.
I'm giving you guys 30 days. I'm gonna help train the next person who's gonna fill my spot." But yeah, so I moved here. I had to settle up some things with where I was living in Southie at the time, and then had to get that beater of a car that I'm sure you saw when I first moved down here. So right around like the first week of June.
Okay. In 2019. So you left with class from your old job. That's the way to do it, not
Yep.
burning bridges, helping to train the next folks. And then, time dilation from COVID is crazy because I feel like I've known you a lot longer than that. And that's 3 years. Okay. So you got there not even a year before everything got locked down.
I know. So
Yeah.
we Rome and I joke about that all the time, and Kate too, Rome's wife, because I mean, and people should know too that this wasn't just like a random email that he sent me, said, "Hey, come work for me." We had been Rome has been my coach and my own like he programmed for me probably the same amount of time I was living in Boston. So probably like a decade, if plus even. And you know, we would dabble in that conversation, and he would tell me that there might be some work available. And again, I was just I was in Jesus, I was in my early 20s at that point when we had that first conversation,
Mhm.
and I just wasn't ready to leave the city yet. So like this
Sure.
had been going on for a while before I actually was able to um, move down here. So I had known like you and other members of the gym and kind of the greater community there for a really long time.
Cool. Yeah, and we saw each other a lot because you were there in the morning and I would go in usually around 7. And for those who
Mm-hmm.
listen to this show, they know I have a home gym, so that's usually where I work out these days, but I still have a great relationship with you and the other coaches there at Romeo Athletics with nutrition and with everything with the website. So I would see you in the morning and we chatted, but we didn't really go dive deep into you as a coach. So I want to get a little bit into the training and programming side of things. What is your approach as a coach to training, programming? Do you work with specific types of clients? Do you work with specific performance goals and so on?
Sure. So I would say right now, my current client load, uh, they're more the general population.
Mhm.
And by that, I mean, these are individuals who come in with no one like particular skill set they want to focus on. And truthfully, circling back to what you said about COVID, like the vast majority of people who I train right now um, have really kind of come off of the kind of like the onset of COVID, where they were forced to do nothing, and
Mhm.
they realized how much their health was deteriorating in some ways. So they needed, again, for their like mental health, to get healthier, and really as broad of a stroke that paints. It's been cool to get to build a relationship based on like the fact that all of us went through the same thing, and now
Mhm.
like, hey, the a gym or the fitness industry is super vulnerable to begin with. Like as someone new approaching like yourself to say like, hey Philip, I need some help with some fitness or nutrition, excuse me, coaching. So yeah, for the most part, they don't have any specific skill set they want to focus
Mhm.
on. They're looking for the bigger picture. And the great thing about what we do is we can do the fitness piece and also have like a mentoring slash coaching side to it. So I don't just take my clients in, it's just a workout and then see you
Right.
Friday. We talk about a lot during our sessions. We try and bounce ideas off of one another so that I know and that they're aware of that I'm still doing right by them as far as what their goals are. And as far as how I train them, I have very, very basic like principles, like rooted in like the strength and conditioning community. And again, like it's kind of the I know like what the meat and potatoes of a workout that I want them to do, and then no matter regardless of like what their training goals are. So that's all the like the larger lifts, the bigger movers, like the
Mhm.
squatting, the deadlifting. Again, and this is of course to say that they all are have an appropriate amount of uh, manner to like perform those movements safely. So the there's a hierarchy typically that I like to follow first in like moving well, exploring where any limitations are as far as like movement patterns are concerned. Like we can add then, some add a little bit of intensity or a little bit of load to that, and then kind of increase the volume or the speed at that point. So it's really, again, if we didn't have that first conversation with them to begin with about like, hey, Philip, tell me more about yourself. Like, what are you here for? What are your biggest limiting factors, concerns, and what kind of experience do you want to have with me?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that sounds, what I'm hearing is it's highly individualized, but there are principles you follow, right? There's principles of strength and
Mm-hmm.
function, and overall movement mechanics, right? But you have to take each person in, and it makes sense. The general population is the majority of people, right? Like, I think most people
Mm-hmm.
going through, even on the nutrition side, are not saying, "Hey, I have a bodybuilding show that or a CrossFit competition." That's a tiny slice of the population, so it totally makes sense you do that. And then, for people watching or listening, what Yosh is saying is you could get a template online that tells you like, here are the main lifts, and it's going to take you a decent, it's going to take you pretty far as a beginner if you're like totally healthy, you have no limitations, and you go for a certain length of time. But at some point, you're going to probably hit a wall or get injured or something, that someone like Yosh can come in and say, hey, this is you, this is how you move, this is, how we can work
Mm-hmm.
together. So, um, I really like that. And I see how you work with your clients all the time. And it looks like it's more than just, hey, do these 3 sets. I'm here watching you. It's, let's chat, let's figure it out. And you're not like wasting time. I know some trainers just like chat to chat, but you're actually trying to get
Sure.
something out of it for your client,
Yeah,
because
and
they're
I
paying you
think
for it. Right. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, at the end of the day, they have entrusted myself or one of the other coaches with that level of vulnerability, right? Like
Yeah.
it's hard
Vulnerability.
enough
Sure.
it's hard enough to say like I need help in anything, but
Mm,
especially with like nutrition coaching and fitness. So we we really try and do as much as we can with that first, so it's not overlooked down the road. Like,
mhm.
hey, all right, Philip, like I'm gonna put you on this like brick house program, and we're gonna get you strong, fast, powerful. Like, okay, that's well and good, but there's other things that like I need to work on. It would help if not only if you coach me through what we're doing, exercise selection, pairing order, et cetera, like wise, like that's fine, but tell me where this is going to carry me outside of the gym and in other relationships that I uh, may have with people that have nothing to do with exercise.
Right. Right. It's not all about how much you can deadlift, right? But can you walk up the stairs at the Patriots game or whatever your team is? Yeah.
Mm.
Um, cool. So you mentioned mental health and just health in general. So what lessons have you learned as a behavioral counselor that you were talking about in Boston that apply to fitness and personal training? And then, kind of what it means to be healthy and that optimal health that you were talking about.
You know, I think more there are enough people that know all like the physiological effects of how exercise like triggers hormones that make us like feel happy and better, but unless you have seen that change in someone or seen that change in yourself, a lot of that is kind of mute. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, oh well, if I exercise for half an hour a day, doing aerobic, anaerobic, strength training workout, like I'll feel happier, right? And I think again, some of that gets overlooked because number one, a lot of us don't have our own baseline to go off of to begin with. So working at that, even again, like through that first year at the job, I noticed how much of that work I was taking with me, like at the end of the day, back home into the weekend. And then at some point, it just felt like everything just like bled into one another. And when I was able to introduce the exercise, more high intensity exercise into my, I think I was doing it like 3 or 4 days a week. A lot of that helped me understand that there are really healthy outlets. So go and use them. See how you fit them into your week. And then again, like that baseline now is week to week. I'm not taking all of that. I'm not taking work home with me. I'm not taking all that cathartic, like nasty stuff into conversations with other people. So it was, I think when I first kind of had the idea that like, oh, like shit, this stuff is working. I just was able to start having better conversations with people at work and at the gym. Again, like at work about what I do at the gym, and then vice versa, like at the gym or in a class, like telling people like what I do for work. And prior to that, it was just like, like
it was abstract. It was just theory.
Yeah, I'm at a shitty job. I don't feel good, or like, well, yeah, I don't have time to work out, so I don't know how to make it better.
All right. So one of the missions of this podcast is acknowledging that we're pretty skeptical of the fitness industry, right? And we do everything possible to split out what works, the things that actually work, from all the noise and nonsense and all those darn influencers on the internet. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the industry or overall, the state of the fitness industry, or anything around, just kind of when you have clients coming in and they ask you questions that you're like, oh, they've been Googling stuff again.
I would like to think I'd like to think it's getting better. But I also, like, I'm not smart enough to know all the trajectories right now, only like what is in front of us and like what we're dealing with. I think a huge issue has been the kind of the format that social media has played, and I see that at times as a vessel for people to just absorb information, and then you can just regurgitate it back out at any speed to anybody. You don't need to care like who it goes to, who it affects to some degree, and then it just all settles to various communities or people that are very I guess susceptible to this quick feed of information, because as human beings, right, like we do a very poor job at like waiting and hard work, in the sense that like if something
it's true, we want a quick fix, right?
Yeah. If something means a lot to me, I don't want to spend that much time to get there. So that's always been a tough question for me to answer, only because when you open up Facebook or you open up Instagram, there are a number of influencers just pushing like their own agenda, and I would say more than half of them, or well more than half of them, have been able to dupe the general public into thinking that they care about a specific cause or they care about you, and then they're like side pedaling supplements
Supplements, yeah, right.
or meal or whatever,
Sure.
or workouts. And I don't like, listen, when I first started, I made the same mistakes again, like hundreds and thousands of times. And
Mhm.
it's just, at this point, like you said, like at this point in the fitness industry, like we've both had enough skin in the game to have much more valuable and objective feedback to people. Like, no person to sell you like a 2 week like detox or like strength program is really cares about like who you are and then the longevity of your goals. So I will say I've met a lot of super generous and kind people who are also great coaches and also great mentors. And the fact that they're out there doing their thing to their community does provide like just a sense of relief. Like, hey, there are more people like us doing the right thing. They know how hard you have to work to provide and set an example, uh, the way we know can work over the course of years or for the rest of your life, right?
Yep.
And now like kind of the uphill battle is still the the people who come in and are super reserved of your opinion because they watched, I don't know, they watched a TikTok video on
Mhm. Yeah, now you have to unravel that in some sort of
it,
rational way, where they trust you.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, I like how you kinda spun that into a positive, right? Because we don't definitely I never wanna talk bad about other coaches, and I
mm-hmm,
wanna acknowledge the fact that you do have to be skeptical and aware of the content and where it's coming from, and you would hope that over time, the good coaches would start to take over and flood the internet effectively and drown out the bad actors, and that as people get
mm-hmm.
frustrated and try these things and blow a bunch of money on something that doesn't work, that eventually they're gonna come around, but we know humans are humans. There's always going to be some
Yeah.
of that, right? So cool. Yeah. And I just wanted to go off on that little tangent because you and I had also chatted about some of the technical aspects of how do we make videos and put captions on there. And like,
Mm-hmm,
we're trying to go out there on social media and put stuff out there just because it's the way a lot of people connect today. Right.
mm-hmm,
All right. So as coaches, right, we understand how valuable it is when someone finds a good coach that can work with them to get them progress quickly. And I know you said, it takes time and it's to become sustainable. There's no quick fix, but you can still get there a lot faster oftentimes by having a coach than trying things for years on your own. So let's get into some of those specifics from your perspective. Who would benefit from hiring a coach versus, hey, this person's perfectly fine going on their own?
I honestly think anybody can find have value in hiring another professional
Mhm.
to for whatever goal or for whatever reason. And I think in particular it's because we, again, as like busy human beings, right? Like you have I don't have you have a family. Uh, I don't myself, but again, like there are certain stressors that we would gladly let other people worry about and take care of
Mhm.
for us. And again, like I'm happy to pay for that service. So I
Mhm.
think an example that comes to mind for me is, you know, I have typically like a very busy um, schedule most days of the week, right? And one of the things that reach I reach out for, are like meal prep services, right?
Mhm.
So looking for very like standardized, credible places that like offer ready to go meals. So like, okay, I'm gonna pay for a box, I get it, I bring them into work with me. If I have like a half an hour between clients, I'm good to go. So I that I think to answer your question there, if you are everybody struggles, whether we've done this for 10 years, 50 years, whether you're coming off the couch into the gym or again, like someone like myself just getting back into Olympic weightlifting program, right? Like you will always find you will always find a way to put stress on yourself because you think that you can just take it all in. You can be that like you that lone gunslinger type that you can handle it all. And at some point, you're going to hit a wall and you won't be able to do it anymore. And I think at that point, you either fall into one of two camps, like I have to set healthier boundaries for myself and prioritize things that maybe I don't need to rush to do all the time, or like you said, ask for help, like hire a coach, like buy a program from a coach, because that being able to sustain the part of ourselves where we feel the need to just carry it on for lengths of time is incredibly stressful. And I've done it myself, and it gets so like just physically draining that I do believe at some point, no matter who you are, you can find an area of your life where you can, at the very least, reach out for some guidance.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way you put that because and it may not even be in a coach, right? It may be somebody you know, it may
Mm-hmm.
be a friend, it may be a one-time thing, right? I know I had to work on my squat years ago and I went to a specific coach specific to that type of squat one time and it was as if I had worked on it for 2 years in that 1 hour because
Mm-hmm.
the coach was so valuable and knew so much more than I did. And what you're saying is we have way too much to do in our life to be able to take everything on. And we can only rely on willpower, motivation,
Mm-hmm.
discipline, consistency, accountability to ourselves without anybody else. We can only do that for so long. And that's where a coach can be valuable. Now, people listening to this podcast are like, wait a minute. Philip's been telling me how to do everything now for 35 episodes. He's got these great guests on like Yosh, and I want to do it on my own anyway. I don't want to hire a coach just yet. I do want to get into training. So let's just play devil's advocate for a second. And what are the top priorities then for someone who wants to get started, wants to be consistent, find success, and then of course at some point they are going to need a tire coach, right? But if they want to
Yeah.
get started on their own, what should they be doing?
And this is going to sound against the grain, I guess, but first you have to identify a problem, right? I mean, and it has to be something that's super palpable, right? That has unfortunately brought you some grief in some area of your life. So I think you identify a problem first, right? You have you have to open up a bit and kind of make suggestions to yourself in areas that it's deeply affected you and in daily habits, relationships, conversations, etc. Uh, I also think that if you're doing it, if you're serious about it, and the goal is to ask for help, you need to ask other people for feedback on yourself, and that's something that I've learned even just recently through the leadership academies that I've had the opportunity and pleasure to go to up in Manhattan. And one of the things that is a company called Next Jump, and one of the things that they drive is that we, as individuals, it is almost impossible for you or for us to see our own blind spots. And part of the reason that it's so uh, difficult for people to ask to help is because they don't know what they need help with. And,
Hmm.
and, and so if we identify a problem, if we're asking for help or feedback from other people, right, then we can go into the area of to explore like where, how often we can make that happen. Nutrition, uh, fitness, exercise, like mental health, anything like education, any part of that infrastructure. Um, and then throughout that process, using us as an example, like we we reach out, or you would reach out to us, sit down with myself or one of the other coaches and say like, hey, this is really what I've been struggling with for several months or several years, and now I'm at the point where I know I can't mitigate it myself, and I need I need other resources. I
Yeah.
need your help. This is what I've been struggling with. And that's again, like going back to what we were talking about originally about how you know, why is it important to build relationships with people to understand like what they'll need long term down the road. And this is a big reason because when they come to ask for help, you just don't want to say like, well, Philip, I'm going to teach you how to squat and poof, like
Hmm.
you're fixed. Like, and so, and I'm not suggesting to anyone that, these conversations are easier, that every person
Hmm.
that I have the ability to meet with, like, all of a sudden, like all the layers get peeled back.
Sure.
Like that's not the case at all. So you have
Yeah.
to do, and then like that's where again now input like someone like yourself or myself. Uh, Now we have to do right by them by asking the right questions.
Man, you just covered something. This is like gold, and I want the listener to be aware of what you just said, because I asked you about where they would get started with training, and you made it about mindset, and you made it about like your true why, your true goal, your true gap in from where you are now to where you want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
what I get from that is we're all struggling in something, right? And let's say it's fat loss. So from a nutrition side, I've got tons of clients that'll come in and say, okay, I want to lose weight. Is that really the problem, right? Is the problem that you want to lose weight? Because I bet you've done things many times over the years that caused you to lose weight successfully. Okay.
Dude,
Short term, right? Is that the problem? And we have to dig in and say no. It usually comes down to the mindset of no, it's that you want to feel a certain way, that you want to be able to play with
mm-hmm.
your kids, that you want to be able to do the things you do, and then you kind of back into that. Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And at the end, the solution may be you need to get stronger and not even worry about the scale. I don't know. I mean, it depends on the person. But that's awesome, Yosh, like what you just talked about.
It's, and again, like that, it's through a lot of trial and error. And
Hmm.
you made a really good point too, because I even like, I mean, I've over the past that been on the scale, like gone on the in body, looked at myself in the mirror and been like, I should like probably lose some weight too. But you know, why do I want to lose
Hmm.
weight or gain weight? Like, what am I trying to objectify there? And again, like I, what for me, that really turns into what my habits are like.
Hmm.
And if I have shitty habits, I'll just automatically explore like, well, I need to lose some weight,
Hmm.
but my habits won't disappear. So like I
Right.
100% agree
Like a
there
band.
that
Yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's it's a lot more than just uh right, like that service layer strategy that you might have, because it's not always going to be it's not always going to be that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's great advice for folks listening. Really ponder that and ask yourself not only what my goal is. That maybe that's the first step, like what my goal
Mm-hmm.
is, but then ask yourself why that's my goal, and maybe that'll lead to the real goal, the real short term process transformation that you need to go through. Okay, so let's talk about some kind of fun stuff here in terms of the lifting side. You're an Olympic lifter. I haven't really gone into that on the show at all because I'm more focused on traditional lifts when I do talk about it, and
Sure.
I have a love hate relationship with lifting from my from my history because I learned about it through CrossFit, which pros and cons of that. And I remember you getting me to push myself on Grace. Like, so people listening, Grace is one of the WODs in CrossFit where you do 30 clean and jerks for 135. Now, today that probably wouldn't feel so hard, but at the time I wasn't as strong. And you were like, you got this, man. You got the RX, and I could do it. It wasn't like I was going to injure myself. And I got it done. But tell me why somebody would want to learn the Olympic lifts, the clean and jerk, the snatch, why they're valuable as part of somebody's programming.
So I mean, I think obviously, like if you want to compete in the sport of Olympic weightlifting, like yes, of course, like you are going to have to learn the snatch. You're going to have to learn the clean and jerk. Outside of that, honestly, I mean, there is a layer of this where you see it, it looks cool, like
Hmm.
and you learn it, and they're fun. Like it is
Sure.
a really really fun. They're fun exercises to learn, develop, uh, develop an awareness for, and then ultimately get better at. Whether it's a snatch or a clean, things are so precise and get so technical that
Hmm.
uh, when you succeed a lift by a pound, by 2 pounds, by 5 pounds, even like that has taken a lot of freaking work to do. So I would say to some degree, people that if you're going to try something a little more challenging than your current trajectory offers, one, it'll it'll show you right off the bat how much discipline you have, because it, the workouts that don't go as planned, the weeks that don't go as planned, we'll see if you come back the next day and pick up training where you left off. Um,
All right. So it's
but
it's a mental game for sure. It's a
it
skill
is,
move. It's mental. Yeah.
uh, I guess on the more objective side of things too. Like they're great. I do believe that they're great exercises for certain athletes to learn. Maybe not, and by that I mean take a I only say this because I was watching a video on Instagram today of an Olympic thrower.
Hmm.
Those guys
Yeah.
are the most powerful athletes in the world. One of the variations of the Olympic lifts that they use is the hang power snatch, hang power clean, because
Mm.
it'll start uh, just body placement wise, it'll start above the knee. You have very minimal length or distance of movement, but you have to be super explosive. And these
Okay.
are guys that are putting up several hundred pounds. And I mean, again, it's humbling for someone like myself to see who's been
Mm.
training them for like 10 years and seeing like these college athletes come in and just do something so, again, in my eyes, so incredible from such a difficult position.
Right.
So that's like being that's being an athlete itself in certain sports. I think
Hmm.
they're appropriate. Not all sports. Like, do I think that if you're an elite caliber or professional athlete, you could benefit from the use of them? 100%. Do I think that they're necessarily uh, appropriate for every like program you might be following? Um, not in every case. Like that, you
Yep.
have to,
Yep.
that's you walk a very fine line there. But I guess to answer your question, it's always cool to take somebody out of, say, like just doing CrossFit and saying and suggesting to them, hey, how do you feel about like getting really really strong over the next like 3 months? And yeah, of course, why wouldn't I want to do that? Cool. You're gonna stop doing all the shit that makes you hurt and lie on your back after,
Yep. Yep.
and I'm going to teach you something a little more fun. And at the end of that, I'm going to put you in an actual competition to see how you do. So I guess like someone who's open enough to try something different to help their performance in said area already,
Hmm.
like it's going to be it'll be a lot of fun, and you're going to learn a lot about your um your level of tenacity as an athlete or as an individual.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. That would be me with a snatch constantly back in the day, not wanting to do the snatch, shoulders, man. But it's funny because I've always had interesting opinions on that over the years too,
Mm-hmm.
because the Olympic lifts are kind of how I got into using barbells through CrossFit. It wasn't until years later that I just focused on pure, strength movements just to build strength. But um, there are some programs, I think, like Starting Strength, for example, that incorporate the power clean early on, as the deadlift gets really heavy, as an alternate pull movement in between, just so you're not deadlifting like
Mm-hmm.
every session. Um, and yet, even though I've seen arguments about that, it's like you still can only lift so much doing a power clean. So why wouldn't you do other pulls like rows or something like that? But
Yeah, like
yeah.
I would. So that I agree. That one's tough for me too, because if I'm looking at that and someone's saying like, hey, if you're stalling on your deadlift, Yosh, do a power clean to do whatever. Like, number one, I don't, again, in my opinion, I don't think that that's truly necessary. I'm not like, what kind
Right.
of adaptation am I going to get through that? That being said, if you ask me, like, hey, is there a variation of a lift that could help the performance of my deadlift? Then I would teach someone how to do a pull, like just a
Hmm.
basic clean pull, either from risers or from
A
like from a
rack.
rack,
Yeah. Hmm.
or having the individual put straps on and go from some position above the knee, right?
For sure.
Because
Yeah.
like that's,
Yeah.
and you've done
Rack
rack
pulls.
pulls
Yep.
before. Like we overload rack pulls to. There are many reasons to do rack pulls, but one of the larger benefits of a rack pull is to break past that sticking point of a either of a conventional deadlift, right? When you're getting it towards your knee and people like look like they've been
Yep.
hit by a taser. But again, like that, I think what we're both saying really is it, it's a very you're going to have to know that athlete or that individual so well. Number one, to even suggest that,
Hmm.
and number two, then if they're even able to perform it well enough to get the adaptation or benefit from that, to then provide them a bigger deadlift. I
Hmm.
mean, so that and that, but that's where like good coaching comes in.
Right.
Like
For sure.
a good coach is going to look at that and say, you know what, Philip? Like, yeah, you don't need to power clean one because your shoulders and your wrist can't take it, but I can teach you how to pull. Like, you definitely
Yep.
have enough
Yep.
power. Like, your back's strong enough, your legs are strong enough to handle that kind of position. So we're just gonna shave some weight off to start, and we're gonna teach you how to like produce some speed to it. So it's just that to me definitely comes down to the level headedness of a coach to even put that in their athlete's program.
Cool. Yeah, all good stuff. I mean, people listening, they wonder about that, and I know folks that do Olympic lifts mainly for the fun of it and the skill of it and the
Mhm.
athleticism side of it, which seems to be the dominant driver, especially if you want to compete. So pretty cool stuff, man. Thanks for. We haven't covered that on the show yet, so I'm glad we covered it a little bit. Now last thing, or one of the last things, a little birdie told me that you're a foodie, uh, but your favorite beer is Bud Light. Now, I think you're in good company. I think you're in good company on the food side with me. Okay, my wife could tell you. My wife makes most of our dinners these days, and they're delicious. But she's not a foodie. She finds a good recipe, throws it together, serves it to me, and I'm like commenting on the mouthfeel and the texture and the seasonings I taste and like all this stuff. I'm such a snob. So, but is it true that you're a foodie and your favorite beer is not some barrel aged imperial stout, but it really is Bud Light?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I am a foodie, and again, like I think this learn like enjoying food has come off of like a part of being in the fitness industry, and to most people that probably seems obvious because like if you're gonna do the provide like yourself the physicality, like the the workouts and the training that you're going to do, like, hey, why wouldn't they pair that with eating right? Like, I would
Yeah.
like to say that every I'd like to say that every fitness professional does that, but I don't know. Like, so the food piece came from wanting to teach. I've taught myself how to do the Olympic lifts. I want to teach myself how to cook. I want to. It's just it's more of a point of creativity.
Cool.
And then
Yeah.
when I learned how to cook, and I'm not like my I don't have this huge continuum of what I'm good at, like in the kitchen, but like I want to be able to do that for myself. I feel like that is a necessary task, I guess,
Yeah.
that all of us should at least try. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
the foodie piece, like, is and now like knowing how to do that, it is giving me such a more just every time restaurants or people suggesting that, like, hey, like, I know you enjoy like making this, you should try it from here. It makes it like, I guess, the whole experience much more enjoyable
Hmm.
overall.
Yeah.
and, re-
Yeah.
and
Gastronomy or
and
whatever it's called. I'm right with you,
yeah,
man.
seriously.
I mean, there's a dark side to foodieism in that, you eat out all the time because you love food so much, but the positive side, like you said, is if you learn to cook your own stuff and you really get creative, now food can serve you. It's not like you're
Mm-hmm.
just shoveling it in for the calories. You're actually trying to make it an experience as part of life. And hey, we're human, so just make it work with your macros and with your goals, and you're good to go, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I think everyone should learn how to cook for themselves for sure.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And eating at home is a good way to stick to your plan too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the second to last question I like to ask all guests is, what one question did you wish I had asked, and what is your answer?
Oh, geez. I don't. What Okay, I guess. Okay, what are? Do I have any personal
Any personal what?
training goals?
Oh, training goals.
Yeah. And I guess I guess I don't at the moment. I would. People may think that it would be to train for like a weightlifting competition, and
Mhm.
I I guess I'm trying to get better at just enjoying the training for the sake of being able to train and getting stronger and healthier versus always needing a uh, a spot to prove what I'm doing.
Mm.
Right. So if I'm training in the sport of Olympic weightlifting, yes, most people will find a meet to do and compete. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think if you're doing that sport that has that result or outcome to it, like 100%, you should challenge yourself and do that. But right now, I guess I don't have that goal in mind yet, and I'm learning how to literally just do it for the sake of having fun lifting again.
Awesome. That's a great one. That's a great one, man. That's a great one because, yeah, I know I threw you for a loop, and you're like, you came up with the question, and then you realize the answer is you don't have a goal, but that was the money answer, because some people need to learn to just like suck it up and enjoy the process. I don't mean suck it up. I mean enjoy the process. Like live every day, each
Well,
step along the way. It's not about
yeah,
the goal 6 months from now every time. Yeah.
and I think this comes with um, this just comes with experiences that
Hmm.
like damn near all of us do not have the ability to just focus on that part of our health and wellness, like just the training. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
the other, uh, if I'm booked morning to evening and I don't get to work out, how am I going to react to that? Right? Like at some point, outside of the chance that you can become a professional at it, or not a professional, but like be paid to do it, you're going to have to prioritize other things like your
Hmm.
family, your work, and I think over the last couple of years I've done a lot better at saying, like, you know what, the business that I'm helping to run right now takes precedence over my training, and that doesn't mean that I never train. It just means um, I'm not going to like set intentional blocks out in the afternoon for myself just so I can work out. Like I
Hmm.
will leave them. I want to fill them with as many people as I can. And then what I do every Thursday or Friday is go look into the next week and see like what time I do have available. And then I will put, kind of strategize and move my training around that. And in most cases, I get a good enough block of time every day to at least do something. I've started doing 20-25 minutes of like aerobic work now, like in.
Hmm.
So at the very least, if I can do that, it's a good day.
Cool. Yeah, you got priorities and you're still making it work. So
Yep.
awesome, man. Well, this has been a fun talk. I'm gonna. Oh, the last question, of course, is where can people learn about you?
Yeah. So number one, if you are in if you're Connecticut based and you're in the Enfield, Summers, Ellington, Suffield, even if you are over in Springfield, Agawam, like if you're in the surrounding area, myself and my other colleagues are located at Romeo Athletics at 7 Moody Road, again in Enfield, Connecticut. I do have a Facebook page that I don't really put much on, and it's really just my name. You can it's just Yosh, and my Instagram page where I put most of my clients' training and my training on. And my handle there is at the underscore YO and then 5 in place of the S and H.
Yes, perfectly easy to remember, Yost. No, just kidding. I'll put it in the show notes. So we got Romeo Athletics. We got Romeo Athletics, which has a website, romeoathletics.fitness, for people, just if you want to find the address that Yosh mentioned. Facebook, Yosh, and then Instagram
Mhm.
at the Yosh, where the S is a 5 and it's an underscore. I'm going to put it in the show notes so you don't have to remember that. And man, it was great talking about all this stuff. I appreciate you joining me. And of course, I'll be
Yeah, it was
seeing you
awesome.
at
Well,
Romeo Athletics. All right, man.
hell yeah, man. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, man.